What's up, everybody? Calcris back with another Dragon Ball Super deck profile. And today I'm going to be giving you guys one out of 3 installments that you'll see on this channel over the next week of Mecha Frieza. Outside of the other videos that you guys will see me posting here on the channel, sometimes I will do this where I find a deck that I really enjoy, and I find multiple archetypes for those leaders that I find to be competitive and very good. And I want to share them with you guys. Obviously, because I'm not going to be playing all 3 of these archetypes at once. I feel like it's my job as a content creator. So if I find interesting archetypes, to share them with everybody. Because if I find somebody playing the archetype that I put out there, or I kind of help get some light to, or if I'm not even the only person who's seen this idea, it's just really cool to try to think outside the box a little bit. But this one here is a very dare I say standard variation of Mecha Frieza, and like I said, over the course of these videos you guys will see different variations of Mecha Frieza, just slight tweaks that make the deck slightly different and could make them actually fit your playstyle a little bit better. Now all of these I tried to make as budget as possible, so no Xenocell. Obviously if I had Xenocell I would probably include it in at least one of them. But Xenocell is a card I do not have or access to Basil anymore. I used to own a full playset, but when I sold them, I no longer have them. So I have to find different ways to try to make this deck kind of replace those 2 pieces of the deck, which I think we did a okay job with it here. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let me know if you guys like these sort of ideas, if you guys want to see me do that on a certain type of leader. I only play yellow and black, but I can do a lot of deck profiles digitally with other decks. So we'll start here with Mecha Frieza. So this is the Reboot Mecha Frieza, not the the older Mecha Frieza leader. And he now he can only activate mono yellow extra cards, and you can do this by taking a life, and you can activate basically you reduce the specific yellow cost by 1. So 1 drops become free, 2 drops become 1, 3 drops become true, 2, and so on and so forth. He draws a card when he attacks, and he wakens to 4 life. He's a restand 1, draw 1 leader. And on the side, you can activate extra cards as many times as you want, but now you can activate 2 or less for free by taking a life, which does come up quite frequently in the deck. Whenever you activate a yellow card once per turn, a yellow extra card, you can tap one of your opponent's battle cards, which is very helpful, and then also you can draw 1 when you attack. So, we'll start here with the deck. So, some of the things most Mecha Frieza decks will run is a split of these 2 cards here. So these are kind of your main turn 1 plays. You have Universe 9 Assemble and Planet Vegeta. So Planet Vegeta has multiple different uses depending on the deck that you're playing, but you can search out any 4 or less Saiyan. Does not have to be yellow, just a 4 or less Saiyan. So you can grab, there's a plethora of cards that you can grab at your disposal, and also if you have apes on your field at the end of your turn, you can restand them with this card. It's a very good turn 1 play because you can play it out for 0 mana, take a life. So you're basically drawing a card, draw a card off of this, and then you can play that card off of this. A lot of the times people will play Black Bass Saiyan. It's a really good turn 1 play. There's the Son Gohan that has Barrier. It's a black card. It came out as Draftbox-Ku, I believe. That's also another really good card you can play too. And then you have Universe 9 Assemble, which is really good on the crackback turn. So when your opponent, when it's your first turn, let's say you go second, or you go to turn 2, and you have 2 energy up, and your opponent they played something, so they're tapped out. You can play this for 1, take a life, play it for 1 yellow, and then Universe 9 allows you to draw 2 cards, and if your opponent is completely tapped out, you can play out a Universe 9 card for free from your deck that has an energy cost of 2 or less. Now, the interesting thing is, and I will experiment with this in the future, is that it does not have to be yellow. So it can be a blue Universe 9 card, or whatever color they come out with in the future, which definitely gives some playability to this card later on. It also is an activate main, activate battle, which also can be very useful. So those are kind of the 5 main cards you want to start the game with. The other card you want to start the game with is this guy here. This is the Vegeta Unison of Fury. The team FOE, they're a very big content creator and also competitive team in Dragon Ball Super. And one of the main guys, I think his name is Eddie, he every time I watch the PPG qualifiers, he always keeps talking about this card, and there's a reason. This card is absolutely amazing. When it first came out in the universe, in the expansion set with the Topo Leader, everyone thought this card was average. People kind of start playing it, and then once people realized how good it is, and it kind of fits in the current meta, that's the big thing. Dark Broly, Red Broly are two of the biggest contenders in the meta outside of Mecha Frieza, and this card counters both. So you have an activate main where you can tap a card or this card, a battle card or this card, and then you get to add a marker to it. His -3 is really, really good, but his -1 is why this card has gone up to like $3-4. Activate main. Your opponent cannot attack with battle cards greater than their current energy until basically for their entire turn. So this shuts off Dark Broly. Dark Broly rarely runs anything other than the 6-drop 30Ks, except maybe in game 2 where they're going to side in stuff to kill this. But you can play this on turn 2. You stop them from attacking almost every single turn. Sure, they can play all their Brolys, but they can't actually swing. And it can shut off a lot of turns, making this basically like a Topo almost every turn, in a sense, or a Nimbus. -3 is also, this kind of makes this card a game ender, where you can tap one of your opponent's energy, and this card gains 5k, dual attack, and double strike for the turn, which is really, really good. You can uptick to tap something, and then if you have four markers on it, you just -3, tap an energy, and now you have a dual attack, double strike, 20k. Very powerful. Very powerful. And also coming from a unison, it makes them really, because there's not a lot of cards that interact with unisons, so it ends up making it very, very strong. So this is the main unison that we run in this deck. Next is going to be, I run 2 of the Vegeta counterplays. Disregard the proxy, I have the Vegetas in another deck, and I didn't feel like taking them out. But Vegeta comes down, and the card being played is put in rest mode, which is very, very good. So it becomes a free blocker you can play out if you have a unison with more than 2 markers on it, which we should. It just allows us to build up a slightly bit of a board. Also, this card is searchable by playing a Vegeta if you need to grab it. For us, the main engine of the deck when it comes to pressure and just going into the mid game is going to be the Lord Slug deck package. And Lord Slug is an awesome set. I know when I was getting back into the game, I saw the Lord Slug stuff because I came back right after Draftbox-6 came out, and I was looking at the cards. I'm like, man, what do I want to play? And once I decided on yellow, I'm like, okay, what are the good Draftbox-6 cards that came out for yellow? And I landed on these cards, and I looked at them like, okay, these seem pretty good. And I think Annihilation was like $1.50 at the time. Slug was around $2.50. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna buy these. I started reading the cards. Like, you know what? These are actually pretty nuts. So I ended up reading them, and I ended up buying a full playset of both. And then like a month later, this card's like $20. Annihilation is like $10. I was like, okay, I guess I made the right decision. So going from your guys' left to right, Lord Slug. The evil invader, you play him out for 1, you draw a card, which is nice, and then you can activate main. You can activate main for 1 yellow. You either can put a card in rest mode, choose 1 battle card, put it in rest mode, which is actually pretty good, or you can choose a 3-drop or less Lord Slug card from your hand and swap with it. So this card goes to the drop, and then you play out the Lord Slug card. And I believe how the sequencing goes is you play the Lord Slug card out first, and then this card goes to the drop. So you play the card out that you're going to play, and then you switch. We have the Annihilation. This card here is the worst out of the 3. We only run it as a 2 of. They're both unique, these 2 here. What this card does is a 15k crit. It has bond 2, as is this card, which means you have to have 2 battle cards in play. This card will count as 1. And if your opponent has more than 4 more cards in rest mode, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses 2 cards, and those 2 cards cannot restand during their next turn. We run 2 because this is more of a turn 3, turn 4 play. You're not really going to play this card out early. It just doesn't really work unless they're completely tapped out and they have a bunch of battle cards tapped out. They have unisons, all that kind of stuff. But other than that, there's no real reason to do that. Even though it says, you know, 4 or more cards. So it can be leader, it can be a field, a unison, a battle card. There's going to be certain situations where it's going to be really, really good. There's going to be certain situations where it's just very, very average. And this card is just always going to be better. So take your pick, you know, whenever you want to play it. But normally you're going to play it later on. It kind of as a pressure piece. You're going into multiple attacks. You want to play this guy out to then, you know, keep 2 cards locked. Now, the Lord Slug, Super Namekian. This is the best card out of this package here. So it's a 20k barrier. That makes it great. Barrier is really, really hard to get through in this current format, and not a lot of people are running barrier removal. So a card that has barrier is nuts. Secondly, when this card is in rest mode, your opponent cannot add cards to their hand by non-leader card skills. This is amazing. Which means basically your opponent can never draw off of apes. They can't super combo and draw. They can't use unison cards and draw. They can't do any of that kind of stuff. And that's awesome. In the mirror match, this card is nuts. This card will, if your opponent's not running the Lord Slug package and you're playing in a mirror matchup against Mecha Frieza, you will instantly win just by having this card because they can't use any of their extra cards to draw cards. They have to swing at this card, and you do not want to swing at this card. It's brutal. You also have an activate main where you can pitch this card to play out this card for 1 yellow energy. It's useful, especially if you draw 2 or 3 of these in one hand, in your hand. You can just pay 1, play this card out. I think it plays it out with the skills negated, right? No, it just plays it out. Yeah, so you can pitch this card, play this out, draw a card, and now you have the setup for next turn where you can go into this. Like I said, it is unique, but once you have one of these on the board, you really only need to have another one just for later on in the game where you maybe want to play it out for 3, just in case this card gets removed. But once you have one, your opponent's going to kind of be forced to remove it, which means that you're not going to attack your leader. Most decks, like I said, don't run barrier removal, so you're good. That's Lord Slug package there. What else we got here? Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, so we have 2 apes, 2 of the Bardock apes. Probably one of the. It's okay. It's not great. For 2 energy, you want to generally sometimes play other things, but it's not bad. So you combo it for 2, comes out into play, you rest a battle card, and it draws you a card. Now you have a 20k double strike on board. That can reset off a planet. It's good. Unless you're running a different variation of this deck, 2 is fine. I don't think any more than 2 is needed. But it's still one of my favorite cards. It's always going to be a favorite for yellow. 1 BMS. As long as the card's not in your life, you can search this off planet and grab it, so you don't need more than 1. In other matchups, like if you're playing against red and they're going to have removal for this, you may want to side in more. So tournament-wise, you may want to run more of this, but for the main deck's sake, 1 is fine. If you whiff off of it, you can just grab other cards. Super combos for Zamasu. Because we are running a lot of tapping in the deck, we want to be able to run the Zamasu. It works. It works really, really well with this card here, and this card here as well. So we have the Zamasu, which can tap down leaders and battle cards, and also gives you a 10k combo power. Poutine comes into play whenever one of your opponent's cards are put in rest mode. So the King Vegeta card, or not the King Vegeta, but the Vegeta counterplay, that card there. This card and Crusher Ball, they actually don't switch the card to rest mode. The card comes in play in rest mode. So that means this card actually doesn't trigger it. So people just have to remember that, because I've caught a lot of people playing this and trying to play this off of it. I'm like, it doesn't work like that, man. Sorry, I wish it did. But Poutine comes into play. It's a 5k barrier. This is another card you'll have on board probably the whole game. And whenever your opponent plays a battle card by a skill, or they activate an extra card, just a counter skill, you can switch one of your opponent's battle cards to rest mode. It's once per turn. That's really, really good. You put this on board with your Lord Slug, you're basically set up. For Bond 2, you have 2 cards that have barrier, and then everything else is just gonna kind of go. And then we've run 3 Chapel, the Iron Drake. When your opponent attacks, you get to choose one of your opponent's energy and put it in rest mode. It's not once per turn by saying, only 1 auto per turn. If you have multiple of these on the board, they will all trigger. So if you have 3 energy, you have 3 of these on board, and your opponent swings, you tap 3 energy, which then triggers the main, I guess, turn stopper, which is Bergamo. Bergamo, Ferocious Roar, is an amazing card. When one of your opponent's cards are tapped, you can tap a yellow and a colorless, and then you can tap 2 more of your opponent's battle cards. So, you can tap 2 battle cards, ignoring barrier, or 2 energy, or a combination of both of those. Can't tap unisons, can't tap leaders, but at least that can tap leaders, and just gives you more pressure. It's really good on defense mainly. Is you set up this, your opponent decides to swing, you pay this for 2, tap down 2 things, maybe you have another one, you'll pay 4, tap 4 things total. It's a 20k body as well, which has 5k combo power, makes it very, very strong. That's the tapping engine. And not to mention that the leader also can tap stuff too when you activate extra cards, which we will go into some of the extra cards here, some of the defensive extra cards. So we have Crusher Ball, 2 Crusher Ball. Card coming into play is put in rest mode. So it's a little bit better than Crusher Ball in that sense, because Crusher Ball is a counterplay that does not hit through deflect or barrier. This card will at least hit through barrier, since the card being played is put in rest mode, so it doesn't choose it. You still get to take a card from your life, so not as good as Giant Ball in that case, because Giant Ball also draws you a card, but we have the SCR extra card, basically, Cold Bloodlust, the one of. Card being played has all of its skills negated before being played. Very, very strong card. It doesn't get through deflect, but hits everything else, and that's why we run it. 2 of the Vegeta Final Flash. Final Flash is a extremely good defensive option. Also good offensively too. But you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, negated skills for the turn, and then this card gives 15k to a battle card or a leader for the battle. You also can take a life to use this, so it's a free 15k combo power. Very, very powerful. Some people run 3 of. I think 2 is fine. Just the way that this deck is designed, we can't run 4 or 3. 3 Flying Nimbus. It's the only real extra card negate that we run in the deck. There's so much combo in this deck. I don't think Mecha Frieza really wants to run a ton of extra cards that are negates. In the future, if there's a better negate that comes out that is an extra card, I would probably run it alongside this. But you can pitch a card off of this, a yellow card, and then your opponent can only attack with 1 more battle card per turn. Hopefully you get a unison or a leader card swing with this, so you can negate that, and then they get 1 battle card swing. And then Trionical Blow. I bought this card when it was like 30 cents. And I think it's like $2 or $3 now. I may have to recheck that. But this card's nuts. I don't know why people were sleeping on this card. So this card single-handedly completely defeats Red Broly. So if you're ever going into a tournament online or at a locals and you know someone has Red Broly, online or PPG tournaments, you should just always run this. You can run maybe 3 of, then put 1 in the side deck. You have this basically this card. You play it. You choose the card being played. If it's 3 or less, it has its skills negated before it hits the field. And then once this card activates, you get to choose a battle card or a unison and negated skills for the turn. So when your opponent plays their 1-drop Broly, you can play this and then negate its skills, and now they don't get the swap function. Let's say they go into the 3-drop after they have a unison stuff on board. You can play this, negate the 3-drop skills, and then negate their unison skills. So it has a lot of usage, and even if you're not going first, this card's alive because your opponent will play something, and then you can just take a life using your leader ability, since it's a 1-drop extra card, and then play it for free. So it could kind of set you up from there. But 2 or 3 is kind of where you should run. A 4th one can always go in the side deck. You just kind of want to be wary depending on, what the meta is at that particular time. So now we're getting into the endgame stuff. So we'll start with one of the endgame cards, which is the Divine Transformation Frieza. We actually have a little bit of a combo here. I'll explain this card here in a second. But this is a 5-drop deflect double strike barrier that cannot be removed by your opponent's skills. So technically has some form of barrier indestructible there. So this card comes down, you choose all your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO them. So as long as they don't have barrier or indestructible, they get KO'd. Now the second part about flipping life, it doesn't matter in this particular Frieza deck, but then at the end of your turn you get to restand this card. Then when your opponent activates counter skills, you get to choose 2 of their energy or battle cards. You get to choose 2 of their cards, switch them to rest mode, and then they can't attack. Then they can't be restood during their next turn. So once this card's on the board, this is a huge defensive stopper. So you play this on your turn, you KO a bunch of stuff, swing, and then your opponent decides to counterattack or do something, then you can activate the auto, tap 2 things, and then they can't be restood. That's pretty powerful. What's also good about this card, it is a 5k combo, and we run a lot of 5k combos in the deck. So because the deck runs a lot of extra cards, you need to make sure all your combo pieces are live. So we run very few 10ks. So this is one of your finishers. It is turn 5, which is pretty late, but with this kind of control deck, turn 5 is where you want to get to. Well, actually, so with this card, I run a little tech that I haven't seen anybody run yet, which is called Darkness Eye Beam. If you use this and you find this, and this is the first video you guys find this card, make sure just to give me a shout out whenever you guys win something. This card is nuts. So Darkness Eye Beam says it's a 2-drop that says activate main, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, switch them to rust mode. I don't know why people haven't seen this card yet. I see people playing the Bardock blast cannon thingy. I don't know what it's called. That switches a card to rust mode. The card's bad. You only get to switch one card to rust mode. I get to use this card for free off of my leader ability, switch all their battle cards to rust mode, and then I can activate my Bergamos or do whatever, but also it makes this card extremely good. So if you're playing against a board that has a ton of blockers and your opponent, you have the ability to remove barrier off of a card. So let's say you're playing against Jiren and they have a Kunchi on board or something. It gives their entire board barrier. You can use a Vegeta Final Flash to remove its skill for the turn, and then use your leader ability, play this down, tap the whole board, and then play this. And then this card will KO their entire board. Pretty powerful, pretty powerful. Any deck that's very low to the ground that's going to be spamming out a lot of cards, this card's nuts. I only run one of in the main deck. If I were to take this variation of the deck, I would probably side in another one, because it is very, very powerful. Buy this card if you don't have it. It's came out of Crossworlds, I think. It's a really, really cheap extra card, but this is a very, very good tech for anyone who's playing. Very highly, highly recommend. We run 1 Swift Retaliation Cooler. So the turn that we are going for game, our opponent decides to use a floodgate or something, we can play this to turn off that counter, draw a card if we have a bunch of cards. If we have 6 or more cards in rest mode, we can draw a second card, and now we have a 15k body on board. Secret Identity Mass Saiyan gives us some board removal. We can warp up to 6 battle cards worth of energy, and we have a 25k swing. Mirror Champa as our big game ender, comes down for 1. It's already a 30k, and then you swing with it, gains 3k for every card in the warp, and then you chomp on a Champa and give it double strike, and now this card's basically untouchable unless you're playing against green. And then the last card we run is the Queen herself, the Supreme Kai. I love this secret rare. I like it a little bit more than Cell. I just think it's a little more fair than Cell. You can play it out for 1 during a battle, and your opponent cannot attack with Unison or leader cards. So if your opponent decides to swing with a battle card first, what you can do is you can activate battle during their combo, after their combo phase, play this card. Now your opponent cannot attack with leader or their Unison, which could shut off, a potential game-winning turn. And then once it's on your turn and you're done swinging with this 40k, thick card, you can activate main to send this card to the warp, which actually removes this card from the game. Then you can choose all your opponent's battle cards and their Unison and warp them. That's really strong. That allows you to clear an entire board for 1 energy, while also getting a 40k swing in. Also that you can attach a Champa to and make it a 50k swing. So you have a lot of utility with this card. So this is one of the variations of Mecha Frieza that you guys will see on the channel. Let me know if you guys like it. Let me know if you guys like any of the tech cards in the deck. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.